Greetings, Warlords. Rodge here. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk, joined once again by Monty. Monty, how's it going?
Most excellent, Rodge. How about yourself?
Glad to hear. So we are back at it in the month of June. Can you believe it?
Uh-oh. Summer's so short, you better make the most of it around here.
Just start and just drop the kid off. First day of summer camp. Looks like
nice.
A madhouse over there. Best of luck to little Dane in his camping travails. All right. So today we are going to talk about a few different things, but the main topic is the best beginner faction for each age. So each age book of Saga. So we are going to get to that, but first we got I think there's some news stuff going on here. A couple events coming up, so get my plugs in. So Origins is coming up here. When this goes out, it's already going to be just over 2 weeks until the event. So that is in Columbus, Ohio, Monty? It's in
that
Ohio.
Sounds right.
Yeah, I believe it's Columbus.
Yeah.
Never went to Origins. Always wanted to go.
Yep.
So at some point, maybe I'll make it over there now that they're playing Saga. There's a Learn to Play event on the Thursday. Age of Magic, Age of Crusades and Chivalry, question mark. It's just going to be Age of Crusades, it looks like, on the 21st.
Yep.
And the 22nd is going to be the Dark Ages, like a Saturday, Age of Invasions and Vikings. So very cool. I know the Ohio guys are on top of that. The packets are in the Saga Thursday Discord, I'm sure. Mm-hmm. And that's not the only big event coming up, Monty. We have the North American Grand Championship, Age of Vikings and Age of Invasions, November 9th and 10th, 2024, in Kansas City, Missouri. So I believe this is attached to some kind of larger historical convention as well. Do you have any special insight there, Monty?
I don't. I know they had to work hard to lock up the venue, but that's about that. That and some of the, they're still chewing on some of the other stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think the packet's out yet. Maybe you guys can comment here if it is, but I don't remember seeing it, but I've been laying low the last month anyways. So are you planning to head to Origins or this Grand Championship here, Monty?
As of this moment, no. The November one, I'd like to make it, but it's also a tricky time. There's a couple local events that are stacked on either side of that. So, it's far enough away that I can maybe get that, but it's also a tricky time. So We'll see.
So Renegade Open, is that?
Yeah, I mean, that's 3 days. And then we there's still interest that we do our own, like, especially for like the local crowd who maybe don't travel for events, might still do the Feast for Ravens in October. Not exactly sure when. Still talking to the guys about it.
Okay. Yeah, there might be another event cropping up here. We'll see. Yeah. Like I said, I won't be able to make it over to Origins, but the Grand Championship, I would like to make it down there.
Nice.
It's a big haul for a solo trip. So throwing this out, just contingent on carpooling with somebody from the Twin Cities.
Okay.
So if that's not you, Monty, there's a few other likely candidates I'm in touch with.
We should, somewhere between all of us.
So we'll see about that, but very cool. Looking forward to it. Always good to have some larger events.
That 2 days are the best.
That I don't have to have a large hand in running myself.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right. One last big piece of news here. The Patreon Warband Building Challenge has begun, Monty.
Nice.
Now, it's 1 point per month, starting in June here, going through December. So if you are a little late to the party, that's still fine. Anytime in June or July, you can still jump on and try to catch up later. I am participating as well, Monty. I'm doing an Age of Magic warband, and it's going to be an Age of Magic warband that is going to be photographed for the new Age of Magic book.
Oh, wow.
And it's going to be one of the new factions there. So just kind of seeing that and following along, you might get some tidbits about this new faction, but you got to be a patron to get in on it. And already it looks pretty amazing. Better response than last year, so this should be pretty off the hook. At the end of the year, Monty and I will review the armies and just kind of give our feedback and thoughts. And it was awesome last time. Looking forward to doing it again. So head on over to the Patreon link below if you want to get in on that. It's just a lot of fun. Monty, we know you can't cut the mustard there.
I'm tempted, but if I get too excited, like all of a sudden I'm like, I really want to play this warband. I don't know if I can wait like the 5 more months. I might, but it's possible. I want to have a good think.
Sure.
See if I can convince myself.
So folks can take on the challenge, in any way they see fit. So if you're a slow painter, this could be, just to get an army or a warband done. For me, the spirit that I'm thinking about it is this is extra warband painting, all over the top. This is my motivation. So I've got some Medbury Miniatures. I got in on their Kickstarter for the medals. So that's like what I'm kind of working on right now. And these Age of Magic figures, I'm kind of squeezing in those extra hours and kind of trying to get it in. So it was challenging last year doing the Muslim war band. Came down usually to the last week or so. Once I got started, going to midnight most of the days on the last day. And you're right though. It is you do when you're playing the painting them, you do want to play them and get it going. Some motivation just in doing that. So yeah, I can see it's not for everybody, but it's going to be a good time regardless. So finally, we can jump into the main topic, which is the best beginner faction for each age. So there's quite a few dimensions that we could grade these on or have in mind. So Monty, what were some of the things you were thinking about trying to decide? So for example, the complexity of the board is a factor when deciding this, I think, for both of us. But that's just one dimension. So what were some of the other things that you were thinking about?
So for me, portability was a little bit of a factor. The ability to paint one, and if you can spam it over, say, multiple builds. You're new, so you're trying this. So like if you could get 2 or 3 warbands out of the first warband you paint, so much the better.
Yeah, I agree. That's definitely something I factored into my choices. Definitely the models.
Yes.
Factored in as far as there are a lot of manufacturers for these models. Are there a lot of plastic kits or no plastic kits? If it's a faction underrepresented in the model line, then it's harder to represent or suggest that as a beginner faction. And then a little bit of the painting too when it comes to levy armies. That'd be kind of a ding against levy force for beginner, just because of all the models that you would have to paint. What was another?
No, I agree with your idea there. If people can sneak in a point or two of Hearthguard, it makes it easier for them. So board availability, head count, like you said, how big of a lift it is to get your first warband. I think we already touched on maybe ease of use for the board. Like these boards, there's some really interesting warbands that have a little tricky mechanics, kind of one-off that are not like anyone else. I kind of pushed those to the side. But I think those were, well, you know what? I think I had one other thing, and that is like, for me, when I came to Saga, I love history, but I didn't spend a lot of time in the Dark Ages. So I also snuck in here, like, have people even heard of this corner of history?
Yes.
So popularity of like the faction that's being represented, like, have people heard of X or Y or Z? So that was one other factor.
Yeah, I agree. So the history played into this, as far as kind of more mainstream would be better for a beginner, if they don't, what's an Anglo Dane, if you're not a war gamer, you might just off the top of your head, just a regular guy from 40K or Warhammer, you'd be like, I don't know what an Anglo Dane is, but this must not be for me. So definitely was a factor in the selection. And yeah, complexity, difficulty, kind of the power of the board factored in. Some are stronger than other, despite what people would like to be the case. Not every board's created equal, and some are more challenging than the other. So I didn't want anything that was weak sauce, but on the other hand, I didn't want anything that was too strong either. That would kind of spoil them and be like, they could never move off this faction, because it seemed to be going uphill for every other faction they tried compared to this first one. So try to get something towards the middle of the pack. And another factor for me was the fun factor. It was, if some boards are kind of boring to play, maybe attrition, defense style kind of leans toward that. It's a legitimate style of play, but it tends to not be quite as fun as killing your own models or the enemy models in close combat. So I had to factor that in.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 or 6 different dimensions that we mentioned. So if we had concentrated on one dimension, we could probably come up with 5 or 6. There would be 5 or 6 different beginner warband suggestions based off each one of these. But we kind of combined them all together, and we did not consult each other ahead of time. So we don't know what we've chosen. Seems like we're pretty in sync on whenever we try to do these. We end up being similar. So we'll see if this is the case as well. So let's jump right into it. We are going to start with the Age of Vikings, Monty.
Yes.
Of course, mandatory starting place.
Right.
So why don't you go for it? We'll flip-flop back and forth on who goes first. But Monty Lumen's official, sorry, I used your last name there. They can find you now.
That's okay.
Official recommendation on beginner faction for Age of Vikings. What are you thinking?
So I feel like starting here, this one's kind of a gimme, because it already is a thing that exists in our Saga world, and that is quite simply the Vikings check so many of these boxes. They are super portable. If you paint the Vikings, you now have 3 or 4 war bands you can jump over to from this first warband. You have a massive, probably more than any other warband we might mention or any other board we're talking about. You have a massive number of choices. If you love plastics, you've got plastic choices. If you want metals, even now with all the different companies running all the different lines, I saw that Footsore is dropping a whole new huge Viking line that's I believe either coming out of Kickstart or going into Kickstart. So Footsore has a whole brand new line, and I feel like there's another one out there, and you're just like, oh my gosh, everyone's doing it, but that's good. It gives you lots of choices. I think the board is straightforward. It's like you said, choppy, so not static. It's not complex. The only, maybe the one ding for this choice, I would say, is that if you're playing friendly, you're going to have fun. But if you're like jumping in on Vikings, it is not uncommon to jump in, kind of get your training wheels, kick them off, and then you want to jump to something that's a little more competitive, because the Vikings, as good as they are and as choppy as they are, they struggle to make, let's say, top tier finishes.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. They hit so many of the boxes here, but in my opinion, they do fall down a little bit, like you said, kind of the power level.
Yep.
I would say they're pretty one-dimensional, and their sacrifice mechanic is tough to wrap your head around. I did like a little review of the Viking board on the Patreon a couple months ago, so I kind of laid out some issues I do have with the board. I think it is the default kind of beginner suggestion. As things stand, if you talk to 10 Saga players, 9 out of 10 will recommend it. But Monty, I'm gonna be that 10th one.
Let's do it.
One.
Let's hear
My
it.
recommendation is the Normans.
Ooh.
Best beginner age. So this faction is also pretty popular if you're into gaming or wargaming. I think the Normans, you understand, from history books, are up there, pretty close. Not close to the Vikings, but if we're looking at everything but the Vikings, this is probably one of the ones with the most sex appeal. You can use these models for different factions. The Carolingians you can use them for, or Crusaders as well. Port them to a different book. The army construction is fairly simple, even though you do have different troop types. Just a point of levy, some warriors, some Hearthguard. You can't go wrong. There's plenty of model selection out there. The board is kind of aggressive, so that's fun. I think beginners will learn a lot about the game of Saga. The normal board has a little bit of everything, I would say. There's movement stuff, shooting stuff, melee stuff. So they're going to play in kind of all phases, where with the Vikings, like I say, you're just kind of moving forward. You may charge or not, but you're going to be doing something with the Normans. Pretty much all the time there's something you can do. And then what you enjoy about the different abilities will lead you to your next warband. So if you like the shooting stuff, you might go to the Carolingians or the Irish. If you really like just charging in, maybe you'll go to the Vikings then, or one of the other aggressive boards out there. If you like the movement stuff, maybe you'll disappoint your friends, move on to the Welsh for your next one. You're like, mounted horsemen moving in the opponent's turn. I'd like to do more of that, please. Yeah, I think the complexity is a little dialed up, but Saga's a pretty simple game.
Yep.
So I recommend the Normans. Monty, any thoughts there? Pitfalls?
Right. So the only real pitfall that jumps out at me with the Normans is painting horses. Because
sure, yeah.
Right. So something I see with new people, and I'm just going to throw it in here from the sidelines, is the more horses you have in your warband, the better your Normans will do. I do sometimes see people, because they don't want to paint horses, they'll paint Normans on foot. This board is 100% about packing in all the horses that you can. Not that there's anything wrong with having foot Normans, but if you want this board to really sing, you want warriors. You want lots of mounted warriors. You want your 1 point of levy, which is very portable. And then you want probably 4 to 6 Hearthguard figures. So if you jump in here, maybe look for quick ways to paint horses so that part doesn't drive you mad.
Sure. Yeah, I agree. That was kind of one thing I hadn't considered, actually, but that's a very, very legitimate point, is the additional painting load of the horses. So start with a couple extra Hearthguard units and then whittle them down as you get some more warriors painted. Be my advice there. So
yeah.
But I think Vikings or Normans, either one would be a great place to start in the age.
Yeah, I love
Vikings.
Normans. I love them. Even to this day, if you said tomorrow we had an event and it's Age of Vikings, what are you bringing? And or even if you said, Monty, you get Normans, I'd be thrilled. So even after all these years, the Normans are fun, and point and click, charge, shooty, a little shooty, and just a fun warband.
Oddly enough, it's the one. I haven't played Welsh yet, but it's the one faction I haven't played as Normans, and I haven't played as Welsh.
Well,
so I'll be rectifying the Welsh bit.
Uh-oh. I was going to say, we're grateful that you haven't played Welsh because, yeah, the last thing we need is Rodge playing Welsh. Say goodbye to your boyhood dreams of winning that tournament. I mean, to everyone who's playing you.
We'll see. Yeah, that'll be rectified. And then I like the Normans. I like the background. I'd like to get to them at some point as well, and officially have every faction for Age of Vikings covered. So it'll be coming soon.
Nice.
All right. Moving on to the Age of Crusades. So the other original, going way back to the first edition Crusade factions here.
Yep.
So for this one, I'll go first here. So looking at this one, it's pretty interesting. This one we do have, I think some of the models are harder to find. There's some power imbalances here. So Ordenstadt are nice and sexy models, very iconic, but a little tougher to play, a little weaker maybe. So I ended up going to, I don't know if these are probably the Vikings of the Crusades age. It's the namesake. It's the Crusaders is what I went up with. So the history is spot on. Yeah, people are familiar with it. There's plenty of manufacturers. You can maybe use this faction a couple different ways. I don't like the complexity of the Baltic and the Levantine versions. That's kind of a ding against it for the beginner stuff, but you can easily, swap to one or the other, as kind of like your second warband. You just flip-flop to whatever the other version is, and you kind of board that's similar, but some of the things are different. So maybe that's a good way to branch out. And I think their power, middle of the pack, they're pretty good. Definitely great abilities, can be a contender. What are your thoughts on the Crusaders, Monty?
So I think it was a brilliant pick. I think it's probably the single most popular choice within Age of Crusades. I think the model choices are awesome. And for the newer players, if they want to go Hearthguard heavy with a light painting load, Crusaders are your thing. And also, let's pivot back to your first recommendation. If your a new player painted Normans, and then they want to move on to the Age of Crusades, boom. Your guys, are already ready to run on the Crusader board. So
and I think that'll kind of really showcases, what
agreed
Saga can. What you can do in Saga. We have this Norman board and this Crusader board using the same models. Thematically, it's all appropriate, but you are playing very differently and you have different abilities. And this one, you're right, it does kind of let you run with the Hearthguard a little bit. You can do foot guys, you can do a really small elite warband, and it works fine, works pretty good. If you're up against other newbies, you will be doing fine. Did you choose Crusaders, Monty?
I did, but if you don't mind, I'll make it kind of quick. I would like to pivot to like a second, like give people two choices if we can.
I've got some close seconds here, so I think that's a good idea if we agree.
I wonder if we have some commonality in here because it is the Age of Crusades. I'm thinking if you decide to pick one of the armies of Islam, my personal favorite is the Matatawiya, but you paint up an Islamic warband. They're pretty close to running as Saracens and Moors, so it's kind of a 1 for 3. The Mutt board, gosh, as much as I love it, I guess it honestly is not a great beginner board because it's hard to balance when to hurt yourself to boost your abilities.
I think it's a really fun board for a Saga veteran to play, but I don't think it's that fun for a beginner. Yeah. Because you're like, this is worse. I'm dying here. What's that?
I would like to win one game, they say, after 5 games. So I wanted to do it just because I see a lot of people like the color of the Islamic forces. There's lots of troops to choose from, lots of color, lots of fun. But they're gonna, the Saracens are good, but they're kind of mounted, and I find composite bow warriors are a little tricky to run. So maybe your default is the Moors. It's a lot of foot stuff. It's a lot of foot warriors, and it's not too hard. Well, that was my quick off the cuff secondary recommendation. That's kind of circled and on flames right now. So I'll let you pick it up.
No, yeah, I think that's a good choice. Of the three, I think the Moors were in consideration for me there. I know the models, you can run the foot troopers, which carry over between all the factions, and then once you get into crossbows and javelins and stuff, it can be a little different. So yeah, I think there's some good stuff on there for a beginner, and the Crusaders aren't your thing. I don't think the Moors are that far behind as far as playability and portability. The history's there.
Yep.
It's not overly, I would say it's probably a little more straightforward actually than the Crusader board. There's less text to read. A few more fact abilities on there. That was kind of something I was keeping in mind.
Yeah.
For a beginner board, I know the Crusader board has one too, but you don't want to, hey, this is the battle board, this is how it works, and oh yeah, here's a piece of paper you got to tape or glue or set down. Yeah, it destroys the majesty. That was kind of a ding against it, but I think that's a good choice as well. So, bad. Right. Let's go on to the Age of Invasions.
Yes.
Which of these do you fancy?
Oh man, see, we create this little context, and then unfortunately my little personal biases start intruding a little bit here. I had a tough one choosing here. I was thinking of one of the two war bands that really they're like Vikings of the Age of Invasion age. So I personally chose Saxons. I feel like they're a little more straightforward than some of the other war bands. Huns, you need all mounted, and it's a little tricky. Britons has a kind of complicated mechanic. Sassanids is a little tricky to balance some of the factors. So I kind of came down to Goths and Saxons. And then I didn't really love the whole fatigue mechanic is maybe too much for a brand new player to handle. It's too much for even regular players sometimes to manage for the Goths. So I kind of landed on Saxons because it's pretty choppy. The model count, you could go, you could go 2, you could maybe even go 3 points a Hearthguard. And the models are pretty available, good metal choices. The history's a little obscure. So yeah, it's not like a clear winner, but the Saxons are the ones that I chose.
Right. Well, I'm pretty close to you here, Monty, for a lot of the same reasons you said, but I went with the Franks.
Yeah, good choice
for mine. So between the Saxons and the Franks won out for me. I think the board is a little more straightforward. Saxons are all out attack, and you mentioned the Vikings thing. Yeah, I think the Saxons are like the Vikings of the Invasions age, but I think the Franks are just a little more simpler to play. They're similar in some ways. I think all three of the barbarians are kind of on the same wavelength here, so any one of them would be fine. And I feel like you could probably just use those models interchangeably, so there's portability between those. So the Frank board, I think it's pretty simple to run. You use the Frankish people, you pop the show of force. So momentum, show of force, so there's like 2 less abilities to worry about. And, Mund, I feel just it's really straightforward with where you put your dice versus the Saxons. I feel like there's some challenges there. You have the Führer ability is a little more complicated. So that's why they won out. I was actually, my second pick was going to be the Picts, actually, Monty, as a third. Because they do a little bit of everything.
Yep.
And they're really kind of iconic, interesting looking models. But I can't, the portability of the Franks, and there's some recognition there with the Frank. People have heard of the Franks. Charles Martel, the Hammer, even though it's completely not the same era as that one. People have at least part of it. And
Yep.
So the Franks or Saxons, either one of those, just get those, pick up the Victrix or Wargames Atlantic Goth models and use those as Franks or Saxons. Or Goths is fine too.
Right. Yeah, you got metal and plastic options galore for these two, and it's kind of surprising that you have so many choices. So that's awfully nice. Also, if I can, from the sidelines, throw in something you told me once long ago, and I really should play the Franks to like prove the point that you told me. I think the words I remember is you said, everything the Saxons can do, the Franks can do better. Like, because you've played both.
Not better, but they can do it.
They could do it. Okay.
And then the Franks can do some other stuff
a little
that the
more.
Saxons can't do. So they can do, at some point, I'm waiting on Scott. Scott has agreed to do the Franks faction review. I've been waiting on that.
Yep.
So we can do the invasions overview. And I've got some thoughts about the barbarians and comparing them. So I've got some thoughts there, Monty. Now is not the time to get into those, but you raised some interesting points that are worthy of discussion, but not at this time. So
right, fair point.
Hopefully, sometime this summer or later in the year, we can have a discussion about the barbarians of the invasions. Right, moving on. So I didn't specifically mention this, but I'll see if I'm catching you with your pants down or not. Monty, Age of Magic. Did you pick one for the Magic Boys? Or
dude, okay. But thinking quickly, I think it's Great Kingdoms. I see a lot of Great Kingdoms players. I mean, a lot of people have Warhammer that fits right into that. Otherworld. I mean, I'm having to go fast here. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm saying with zero prep and almost no thought.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's a good choice. It's definitely top two. I went with Lords of the Wild because you don't need quite as many heroes and stuff to run around. You can get kind of bogged down with determination and we obeys and stuff, and it's kind of not that fun. It can be kind of they both can be kind of defensive, but I think the Great Kingdoms are a good choice. I think the Lords of the Wild is probably the other one. I'm kind of on the fence whether it's better or not, but I decided to go with Lords of the Wild. There's some fun stuff in there. The abilities just kind of do you get a little bit of everything in there. You get a little taste, you get some fun stuff with the raising a Titan from the ground. That's pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
And then the wizard, both the spell lords they can take are really good. It's hard to go wrong with any of those spells, where some factions you could take some spells that aren't particularly useful, but I think the Wild got it covered. So that's my recommendation there. But Monty, thanks for playing along, buddy.
Yikes. No net under this high wire.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on, we are closing in.
Yep.
So that's 4 books so far. There's 2 more to go. When Chivalry comes out, there'll be another beginner faction to suggest. But for now, we are moving on to Age of Hannibal.
Yep.
So we're just sticking to the 6 factions in there, following the theme. This one was pretty tough for me. I'm going to go first, but if I was being really cheeky, I would say there's no good beginner faction in Hannibal or Alexander. Just if you're starting with Saga, I would stick to the Vikings, Invasions, or Crusades as your first book and play through that with your buddies. Now, thematically, there's an appeal to the ancients. So if you guys want to dive in, I will go along with it. But everything about the ancients is a little more complicated, and there's extra hurdles and stuff to kind of wade through, special rules, stuff like that. So if Monty's putting the man ballista to my head, I'm going to choose the Romans for this one. So this is due to the history.
Yep.
The models are easy. You can just get a bag of the Victrix, just paint up a bunch of warriors, some Hearthguard. That might be I don't know. That might be the best build. There's a bunch of warriors. I don't know if people use levy or not. The complexity is more complex than other war bands in the Dark Ages, medieval times, but all of the war bands here have some complexity, and I think the Romans combined with the other stuff, the history of the models, are probably the easiest to navigate. There's stuff I don't like about stuff's manable only, infantry only, warriors only, Hearthguard only. So it's easy to trip up if you're a beginner, and that's not what Saga is about, is misloading the abilities because you forgot it's warriors only or something like that. So that's not fun. But of all the boards, I think this is probably the best bet for me. What did you have, Monty?
That was my choice. Those were my reasons. So now I have to do a little quick dance here. I kind of in contention for all the reasons that you said. Like, I struggled to pick a second, but I will say people in this history, if you're a student of, the ancient era, people generally know who the Gauls are, the story of their ferocity, and we'll say it again, the Gauls are like the Vikings of the ancient world, just straight ahead smash things. Mm-hmm. It is more complex, but you do have a lot of model choices, and people just like, I love the history of the Gauls, and I think that's out there. So needing to pick a second, I would throw the Gauls in as kind of right behind the Romans.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. You're right. It's aggressive. It's fun. You throw them forward. It has the fervor mechanic, but playing against it a bunch of times, it's actually not that complicated. It's just you trigger the fervor mechanic until you can't because you have too much. Yeah, it's not, use it if you can. There's generally not a reason to get all wishy-washy or nuanced about whether to pop it or not. Just do it. It's good.
Yes.
You get stronger, So I think that's a good choice. I think my kind of second pick would have been Carthaginians. There's some complexity in the troop types and the way the abilities pop. And it's definitely less trickier than the other ones. But yeah, I think the Gauls actually are probably a better pick now that I'm thinking about it. So
I'm gonna support you and say Carthage is a great pick too, because again, if you know about Rome, then you know about their mortal enemy Carthage.
Hannibal,
Right, the Carthaginians are a gateway drug. You get in there, you paint some Iberians, you paint some Gauls, and suddenly you're like, well, or you paint Numidians, and you're like, if I just paint more, I have a whole nother warband. So they're fabulous that way for an entry point.
Yeah, and that if you start with the Gauls can lead you to Carthaginians too, because you're using those guys for your forest, or the Celtiberians.
Yep,
there you go.
That's right.
Got the gateway. Yeah, the problem with the Rome is you're kind of stuck with just Rome for now until the Caesars come out.
Yep.
So on to Age of Alexander. Monty, we're going to circle back to you. What is your best beginner for this one?
So I will say, like much like you said with the Age of Hannibal, Age of Alexander introduces a lot of, I don't want to say complexity, but some different mechanics. So it's a little bit challenging if you're stepping into Saga for the first time. So kind of weighing these different boards, the models, the history. I landed on the Macedonians as a good entry point. If this is where you want to play, you probably know who the Macedonians are or heard a little bit about their story. The board is pretty straightforward, maybe more straightforward when you compare it to the other boards, which have some really unique standalone plays and abilities. And it can be Hearthguard heavy, so a little less of a painting load.
Yeah, if you want to do a Death Star unit of Hearthguard, a lot of gamers just like to do that. You can get away with it a lot easier. With the Macedonians, and Macedonians were my pick as well, Monty, coming through. So everybody's heard of Alexander the Great. The history is there. The only one ahead in history are the Spartans, but that Greek board, it does what it does. I don't think it's a great beginner board is overly complex and can be kind of boring, and probably doesn't match with what people think of for Spartans. Whether that's historically accurate or not, it's probably debatable, but it's probably not what people a beginner imagines a Spartan army to play like. So I agree. The Macedonians, everybody's heard of Alexander. Board is solid. It's a good jumping off point to the successors, and you could even incorporate Stephen saying some Thracians in there, as part of some of their troops. So it's a jump off Thracian army. And I would even, so if we're thinking about the ancients as a whole, I would rate the Macedonians as a better beginner warband than the Romans. If you're thinking of it as one universe between these two, but they're meant to be combined. What would you say there, Monty? Romans or Macedonians for beginner?
So what's they're so close. What is the tiebreaker for you? Like what kind of, is it the simplicity, like combined arms?
Yeah, the board abilities don't have many stipulations.
There.
There's a mounted unit, there's some hearth guards, but there's
right.
no warriors, maniples, infantry to worry about. I feel like the board is a little less it's probably just slightly less complex, actually, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Fair.
It doesn't. The Roman board just doesn't seem as fun to me for some reason.
No,
I don't know. And then I think probably the power level 2. This fits in better. People would say that this board maybe isn't that great, but I don't know. I think it's got all the tools to play.
It's really good. It's really good. If someone thinks it's not great, they're only comparing it to, I suspect, the successers, which makes every board look like a lesser board. So
going up against some of the best boards that have been made to date, in comparison. So, cool. Well, that is where we're gonna call it. I think that is it. So we just did between the Macedonians and the Romans and the Macedonian ones. So if we're going to do just starting Saga period, Monty, among all these ones that we chose, so we're both in sync on the Macedonians, Crusaders.
Yep.
Franks and Saxons are pretty interchangeable.
Close.
So Vikings and Normans. Yeah. And I would be Vikings for you. It's kind of been the default all these years. Are we going to try to shake things up, push people somewhere else, or?
I kind of like if you, I'm going to say if you can cope with the issue of painting horses, which there are some cheats like prime and brown and maybe wash them, and that's probably good enough for a lot of people. Maybe the Normans are the entry point, because the Normans give you a super good, super solid, straightforward Age of Vikings warband, and then it is your building block to go into the Age of Crusades. So I like that aspect a lot. I like that a lot.
All right. Well, yeah, you heard it here, folks. Age of Vikings is over. They're going to have to rebrand. It's Age of Normans from here on out.
All right.
Going with it. So, awesome. Well, that was a lot of fun to have a discussion like that. And we might do, there's different things we could do. If you have any suggestions for something similar but different, post below. But we are going to move on here. So, if you haven't yet, get on the Saga Thursday Discord. Invite link is below in the show notes. Got over 1,000 members on. Still talking about Saga every day of the year. And there you can find the player finder map. We're trying to get to 500 pins.
Yep.
I forgot to look and see where we were at, but there was a lot of pins, but we could use a few more.
Yes.
Looks like a lot when you're zoomed out on the entire planet, but you get into the countries and stuff, it looks like a little sparse. So get on there, get your pin in, make yourself available to people just getting into the game, build those communities. For others, if you're so inclined, you can head on over to Patreon. So the last Patreon only video I do one every month, and coming up here, there'll be 2 in 1 month, sometime in July or something. Was which warbands, my top 5 warbands for taking 8-man Hearthguard units. So just kind of an interesting little mental exercise, and going through it, it's quite interesting. You know, I come up with a short list that was like 15 warbands where I thought, you know what, maybe there's something to it here. But if you want to hear my thoughts on that, head on over to Patreon, get yourself signed up. Just a couple bucks a month gets you an extra video, a whole bunch of other benefits. A lot of stuff to list here, which I won't get into at this time. But Monty, you're a patron. Thanks for patron, buddy. And there's some other patrons as well. Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Scott, Frank, Britt, DJ, and the rest Saga Thursday patrons. So you guys are the ones making these videos possible. There would just be one sad video a month, Monty. Who wants that? We need more. That's one sad video per week. That's a lot better, right? All right. Coming up here later in the month, Monty, we've got round 3 of the Fimbulwinter campaign, another battle report. Me and Zach. He is playing 6 points of Ordenstadt versus 4 points of my Eastern Princes.
Okay.
Lithuanians. Now, this is the hostage scenario as well from Fimbulwinter. So tune into that. And this one's kind of timely because we're going to be doing a Macedonian faction review with Britt. So
nice. Definitely
the first one from Alexander. Can't believe I've done stuff from Hannibal already. Yeah, definitely Carthaginians with Jed, I remember. I can't remember if I've done other ones, but getting on that train, the Ancients train is getting moving here with faction reviews. So I'll be looking for folks to step up on those. Got quite a few to go. So if you're interested in doing a faction review, hit me up. But otherwise, that is going to be it. Monty, I think that's it, buddy. We done?
Yeah, I think so. Everything I can think of.
Yeah, comment below if you had any thoughts on our picks, and if your best beginner faction is different than ours, post below, spread the word, let us know what it is, but we'll check you later. All right. See you, Monty. Have a good one, folks.
Bye-bye.
Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.